Land ownership, shoen. A major problem during the Heian period was control of the shoen, landed estates. The first landed estates appeared in the 8th century. The last of them did not disappear until the 16th century. Members of the ruling class lived in the capital, but they needed income to support their urban life. The landed estates were a way for them to do this. They controlled the land, but they depended on estate managers to put the local people to work. Peasants were put to work in the fields growing crops. Craftsmen on the estates manufactured tools for the farmers and products for the owners of the estate. The shoen played a central role in the economic and social history of the country. Farmers had a place to live and a way to earn a living. The owners of the estates had a way to earn income without leaving the capital. Naturally, there was competition for control over these landed estates. The imperial house, families of the aristocracy, religious organizations, and estate managers each wanted to gain more benefits from the estates. In the 12th century, powerful local leaders threatened central government control over lands. Different Buddhist groups competed with each other and with the court for land. 12. Rise of the military class. The Heian period began with the Ritsuryo ideal of central control over land and people. But by the end of the 12th century, that ideal no longer existed. Buddhist groups fought among themselves. Families within the imperial house fought among themselves. Fujiwara aristocrats fought among themselves. Elites who were thrown out of the court settled in the eastern and southern provinces. They became independent and powerful. They also wanted to have influence in the capital. Eventually, the elites in the east became military clans. The Minamoto Genji clan gained control over provinces in the east. The Taira Heike clan gained control over provinces around Ise. But the 12th century, they became rivals for power. The elites who competed for power in Kyoto needed military power to protect themselves. Some called on the warriors of either the Minamoto clan or the Taira clan for help. When intrigue within the imperial palace occurred, these two clans clashed. The first military conflict occurred following a dispute over imperial succession. The conflict involved members of the imperial family, the Fujiwara family, the Minamoto clan, and the Taira clan. The conflict is known as the Hogen Disturbance, 1156. As a result of this conflict, the Taira and Minamoto families gained real political power over the central government. But that was not the end of the conflict. 13. The Genpei War. Almost immediately, Minamoto no Yoshitomo and Taira no Kiyomori battled one another for control of the imperial court. As a result of this conflict, called the Heiji Disturbance, 1160, the Minamoto influence was swept from the court. The Taira clan took firm control. Until his death in 1181, Kiyomori had unchallenged power. Within about a decade after his death, however, the Taira would be completely destroyed. The rivalry between the Minamoto and Taira families gave birth to a new genre of literature, war tales, Gunki Monogatari. The most significant of these is The Tale of the Heike, Heike Monogatari. The Tale of the Heike has great scenes of battle and stories of brave warriors. These warriors place loyalty above life itself. The tale tells of the great rivalry between the two clans. It also tells of tragic love affairs and has lyrical descriptions and Buddhist views of fragile human life. Chapter 3. Middle Ages, Medieval Period. Kamakura, Muromachi. 14. Return of the Minamoto. Kiyomori gained total power over the government and kept it until his death in 1181. He ruthlessly killed the Minamoto, his enemies. Some people say he made one major mistake. He was infatuated with the beautiful Lady Tokiwa. the concubine of one of his Minamoto enemies. Her children were Minamoto family members, but Kiyomori overlooked that. Because of his feelings for her, she was able to send her 3 sons into hiding in distant monasteries. By doing this, she saved their lives. 2 of these boys, Minamoto no Yoritomo and Minamoto no Yoshitsune, survived. Unfortunately for the Taira, they both became great military leaders. Yoshitsune is a hero in Japanese culture. He is admired because he restored the Minamoto honor in a series of well-planned battles. His biggest victory was at the Battle of Danora in the Shimonoseki Strait in 1185. After his victory, however, Yoshitsune faced another enemy. It was his half-brother, Yoritomo. No one knows why Yoritomo saw Yoshitsune as a danger. Yoritomo was probably afraid of anyone who might compete with him for power. He not only killed Yoshitsune, but he also killed every other rival within his own family. Yoritomo turned his eyes to Tohoku. A branch of the Fujiwara family had maintained power there for more than a century. To prevent that family from becoming a rival for power, he destroyed them at their headquarters in Hiraizumi. The ruins of the Oshu Fujiwara headquarters is now a World Heritage Site. 15. Kamakura Shogunate. The emperor remained in Kyoto and continued to be head of the central government. But the emperor gave special authority to Yoritomo at the military headquarters in Kamakura. Yoritomo was allowed to select 2 types of officials throughout the country. He chose a shugo, military governor, in each province to maintain law and order. He also chose a jito, steward, for each private landed estate, shoen, and each piece of government land. Their job was to be sure that each province and estate paid taxes. They also forced the people on those lands to provide labor for the government. Yoritomo, in other words, was given broad powers to govern the country. He was also given the title Seitai Shogun by the imperial court in 1192. In English, this is Barbarian Subduing Generalissimo, but the title Shogun is standard. Yoritomo controlled most of the Kanto plain. He was also authorized to maintain the peace of the whole country. His headquarters were called Bakufu, literally tent government. When the imperial court recognized Kamakura as the official seat of government, the Kamakura shogunate began. This is the first government that was called a shogunate. Other similar military regimes ruled Japan during the next 7 centuries. The most well-known is the Tokugawa shogunate. 16. Rise of the samurai class. The imperial court in Kyoto continued to be the center of the aristocracy and traditional culture. But another kind of culture emerged in Kamakura within the warrior class, Bushi. Yoritomo's followers were mostly of humble origins. In other words, they did not come from the traditional aristocracy or from imperial-related families. This new group of warriors created a new military aristocracy. The elite in this warrior hierarchy were gokenin, loyal vassals of the shogun. Under this elite group, there was a group called samurai. Both groups were well-trained mounted warriors. In the Kamakura period, the term samurai referred to a specific rank of warrior. Later, it came to refer to all warriors as a whole. Warrior society in Kamakura had values that were different from Kyoto. These warriors stressed loyalty to superiors, honor, and frugality. They were originally members of trained military units. In Kamakura, however, they gradually became administrators. They kept their military spirit but did not need to fight as often. Many of them adopted an interest in new forms of Buddhism that started in Kamakura. They were especially attracted to Zen Buddhism. Zen emphasized simplicity, self-discipline, and meditation as a means to gain enlightenment. The values the samurai developed, gradually became known as Bushido, the way of the warrior. 17. The Hojo regents and the Jokyu disturbance. The imperial court recognized Yoritomo's military strength. It also gave him the grand title of shogun. But the court did not want the Bakufu to become a permanent center of power. Yoritomo had eliminated all of his rivals. When he died in 1199, there were no powerful Minamoto males to succeed him. There were only 2 young sons. Real power passed to the family of Yoritomo's widow, the Hojo family. For the rest of the Kamakura period, the Hojo ruled as regents, shikken, to the Minamoto shoguns. The Hojo ruled firmly and efficiently. Occasionally, the imperial court and its supporters tried to regain actual power. In 1221, the retired emperor Go-Toba actually attempted to overthrow the Kamakura shogunate. It seemed like a good time to try to do that. First, after Yoritomo's death in 1199, there was unrest among the vassals of the shogunate. Then, in 1219, the third shogun, Sanetomo, was murdered. Court nobles seized this opportunity. They called for punishment of the shogunal regent, shikken, Hojo Yoshitoki. In response, Yoshitoki and Yoritomo's widow, Hojo Masako, rallied the shogunate forces. They marched to Kyoto and defeated the supporters of the imperial court. This incident is known as the Jokyu disturbance, Jokyu no Ran, of 1221. After this incident, it was clear that the shogunate ruled the country. 18. The Mongol invasions. In the 13th century, Genghis Khan led the Mongols to become very powerful. They invaded large areas of Asia and Europe. Kublai Khan, Genghis's grandson, gained control of Korea and then demanded that the Japanese obey him. Japanese leaders refused. In 1274, Kublai Khan sent a force of 30,000 warriors to attack Japan. They landed near Hakata and fought the Japanese. But the next day, a storm suddenly came. It destroyed most of the Mongol boats, and many of the invaders drowned in the sea. The Mongols lost the battle. 7 years later, in 1281, the Mongols attacked again. A large force of more than 130,000 Mongols again came to Hakata Bay. The Mongols and Japanese fought for almost 2 months. Then a powerful typhoon came, and the invaders had to retreat. The Japanese called these 2 storms kamikaze, divine winds, because they protected the country from invasion. 19. Kamakura Buddhism. Until the Kamakura period, Buddhism did 2 things. First, it was used to protect the country. Second, it served the elites. To gain enlightenment, a person had to make great individual effort. Common people did not have time to do this. Only the elite class of society could manage to do it. In the Kamakura period, new ways of thinking developed. The priests Honen and Shinran taught that faith in Amida Buddha was more important than making effort. They taught that even common people could gain enlightenment if they just believed. Shinran taught that if a person called Amida's name even once, that person would be saved. Honen created the Jodo sect, and Shinran created the Jodo-Shin sect of Buddhism. The priest Nichiren had a different belief. He taught that the important teachings of Buddhism were in the Lotus Sutra. He also taught that repeating one single phrase was enough to save a person. Zen was another form of Buddhism that became popular. Zen Buddhism was simple and it emphasized self-discipline. It taught that meditation, zazen, was the way to gain enlightenment. Members of the samurai class found this very appealing. The priest Eisai created the Rinzai sect, and the priest Dogen created the Soto sect of Zen. 20. Meditations on Life. 2 masterpieces of Japanese literature were written during the Kamakura period. Both of them are Zuihitsu, collections of essays on various subjects. The first is Kamo no Chomei's Hojoki, 1212, translated in English as An Account of My Hut. It is a group of philosophical essays. Chomei begins by comparing human existence with the flow of a river. People and their actions are like bubbles that float on the surface. They come up to the surface briefly and then vanish in a moment. In other words, all things perish. Chomei admits that the capital city is a splendid place, but people who tie their fate to the capital place themselves in peril. That is why, he explains, he left the magnificent capital. He prefers seclusion. Living a simple life, he can enjoy the pleasures of contemplation. The second masterpiece is Yoshida Kenko's Tsurezuregusa, 1331, translated in English as Essays in Idleness. The central point of this work is the transience of life. The knowledge that all things perish caused Chomei anguish. For Kenko, in comparison, uncertainty was the most precious thing in life. Beauty, he writes, is brief. A person should delight in that beauty before it fades away. This work is an elegant statement of traditional Japanese aesthetics. Imported Chinese aesthetics emphasized symmetry, balance, and regularity. Kenko emphasizes a different aesthetic. The Japanese value asymmetry and irregularity. He also admires naturalness, simplicity, suggestion, and transient beauty. Kenko points to the major elements of the Japanese sense of beauty.